Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We're coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted that you're part of our beautiful Reading with Your Kids family. Thank you so much for joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guest today is our friend Yobe Qui. She is here to celebrate Asian American Heritage Month in her book, Asian Adventures A to Z. Before we invite Yobe into the studio, we want to invite you to visit our website, Protecting the Planet with Your Kids. When you go there, you can find out all about our special series of Protecting the Planet with Your Kids episodes. Alexia Brown and I are talking to some amazing authors who can tell us some great information that we can use to talk to our kids about climate change in a way that's not going to scare them, and in a way that will inspire them to take action and work together as a family to help protect this beautiful world that we all live on. It really is a fun series of episodes. You don't want to miss it. Go to Protecting the Planet with Your Kids and be sure to subscribe to the Reading with Your Kids podcast so you don't miss an episode. Check it out today. I am so excited. You know, one of the things about being a podcaster, about being the host of the Reading with Your Kids podcast, is I've made so many friends through this podcast. And our guest today is absolutely one of those friends. She's returning to the show to celebrate her new book, Asian Adventures A to Z, and also, and probably more importantly, to celebrate Asian American Heritage Month. Please welcome back to the show, Yobe Qui. Yobe, how are you?
Hi, Jed. I am doing really well, almost the best I've done entire years, and I'm so happy and so glad to be on your show again. Thank you for having me.
I'm really excited. We have such a wonderful time speaking probably about a year ago about your Moon Festival books, and that was really fun because it gave us a chance to talk about not only the Lunar New Year, but also just talk about the fact that what a lot of people refer to as Chinese New Year is actually a holiday that's celebrated all throughout Asia in very different ways. And it was a way for us to just kind of highlight the fact that Asia is this huge continent with many, many peoples and many, many different cultures. It's a very diverse place.
It is, and that's very exciting for me as I am looking into learning more about my heritage, about my community. I was raised in New York City. My mother thinks like I'm more American now than I am Asian or Chinese, but it's until I gave birth to my toddler daughter and I want to teach her about her heritage, about our community. I have to go and learn about these things myself. And what better way to learn about my culture, our history, how diverse we are by researching about book and writing in books. And I wrote about all the different ways our community celebrate Lunar New Year, the Moon Festival, and our double celebration for our double fifth holiday. And that's my newest book. But then it got me to think, even with all of these books that are written, there are so many communities that are not featured. When you think about the Asian community, most people think about the Chinese community, the Korean community, the Japanese community, because it's in media more. There are more representation. People go to those countries, but there is just so many, too many to count. So I wanted to write a book that features as many communities as I can, and that's when I wrote Asian Adventures A to Z.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned those three big cultures right off the bat, China, Korea, Japan, because they are so big and they are in the media. But even within China, I know from hosting international students from China in our home, welcoming them into our family. They're now family members. Even within China, there are so many different ethnicities. There's the one major, the Han ethnicity is the majority, but there are so many smaller ethnicities all throughout that vast country.
Jed, I think you might know more than me about China and its ethnicities. I know that there are so many ways the languages are so different. My husband is 2 hours, his family is 2 hours away from my family. And it's like, I can't understand what he's saying. And, people speak different language. They have different ways of living. They have different food. And we're just 5 hours driving, 2 hours driving away. It's very, very diverse. And as I'm older now, I am learning to find a beauty in all of that. It's like meeting someone that looks like me, that can speak the same language as me, but very different from me in terms of the way we think, in terms of the way we live. So it's very fascinating.
Yeah. And, I love that May is Asian Heritage Month. And I think it's really important because the Asian community, they've been an important part of the United States for centuries.
Yeah.
I would easily say that there are many, many Chinese families of Chinese descent that have been here in the United States longer than my family. I'm second generation on one side of my family. Meanwhile, there have been, Chinese people contributing to this country since at least the 1800s, if not before.
You are very kind and you are such an ally. And we thank you for that. It's not the easiest time for the Asian community in America, but America is such a diverse place. And I think that there are so many of Americans that are open and welcoming to celebrate differences and diversity and culture. And we have an entire month for Asian Heritage Month. And I love that. And we have a Black History Month. We have a month dedicated to different communities, and I love that, and I want to really pay attention to what can we do this year to raise even more awareness around our community and the beauty of our culture. So, and I'm here talking to you, so thank you for giving me this platform again.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. Why, a family listening to this, whether they're in a cosmopolitan city like New York or Boston or in a more rural community out in the Midwest in Indiana or Kansas, what's the first way for us to start talking with our kids and celebrating Asian history and culture?
I think there are many ways to do that. If you want to learn more about any culture, the first thing you should do is pick up a book, a children's book that will feature the storyline, the people, the family, the culture, the food they eat. And children love reading and they learn a lot through books. And diversifying your libraries can open their minds and take them to places that they've never heard of, you can't even wrap your mind around certain landscape and food and culture and language and words and pictures. And picture books are the best way for a parent to start introducing beautiful world to their children.
I do agree. And one of the neat things about a picture book is that there's when you're talking about a very different culture from your own with kids, and it might be the first time that you've been reading about this certain culture, so it's hard for you to kind of just take words that are printed on a page and kind of help a kid understand that. And when you have a picture book, it's like, oh, we can see this. This is what we're talking about. This is what a wok is, and this is how certain people cook their food. Yes,
these pictures books are so important because there's a lot of people who wants to teach their child about a certain culture, about different foods, but they themselves may not feel comfortable. I know teachers, I work with a lot of educators in different school districts, and they want to be diverse. They want to include their children and the students and all of the beautiful cultures, but they don't know how to pronounce certain words. and then they don't, because they don't, and we're doing a lot on and teachers about cultural awareness, but with picture books, the beauty of it, look at this, look at it. It looks like people around the world, a lot of them eat with chopsticks and not forks, right? Look at this. This is how someone eat their breakfast. It's called dim sum. There's so many different ways of dumpling, and the way you order from a Chinese restaurant near you in Indiana or in Michigan or in Ohio might not look like the dim sums that are served somewhere in New York or Boston. So these open a lot of wonderful conversation. And if parents or educators have a hard time communicating or teaching, where they just don't feel 100% confident, the answer is, you know what, I'm not sure, but we can look more into this. That's a perfect answer, because we're all learning together.
Yeah. I love that. And I want to take a minute just to really, really highlight that, what you just said. I don't know. I think that those are three of the most important words a parent can say to their kids. I don't know. I know you put me up on a pedestal. I know I'm so important to you. I'm your parent. You think I know everything, but I don't know everything.
Yes.
And Yobe, you are an early childhood educator, so you're an expert at this field. You don't hurt your position as a parent by letting your kid know that you don't know all the answers. I think it actually enhances your role as a parent, because your kids can see, my mom, my dad, they're human beings. They don't know everything, but they know how to they know how to find out things. And wow, what a great example. I don't know everything, but there's a way for me to find it out.
Yes, and it shows them that you are open to learning new things, which is what we want our children, no matter how old they are, to kind of have this habit of just kind of opening to learning new things, new skills, even no matter how uncomfortable it might be for them to say the word chopstick or wok, but as long as they're open to learning about it, and you can be there to help them learn about things that interest them. And that's our only job as a parent, I think. Our job or educator isn't to teach them, to tell them, but to kind of support their learning, to guide them where they can find answers. And I firmly believe that's what I'm doing every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned that, the dim sum, the dumplings that somebody might experience in New York City is different. It might be different than what you can get down in Florida or Indiana. That was one of the things that blew my mind when I started touring as a magician. I loved what we call Chinese food here in Boston. And then I remember going to New York and going to a restaurant and having it there. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is brown. In Boston, it's green. And there's all this other, wait.
Yes. When the first time my parents and I went to a Chinese restaurant, because, we don't go to Chinese restaurants, we cook our Chinese food. Why are we going out to pay for Chinese food? And they ordered wonton soup, and they saw that it was yellow skinned. My parents are like, what on earth is this? But there are so many different wonton soups or ways to make wonton. And depending on where you go, it's a different way. And I think that's beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. I don't think I shared this with you before when one of our Chinese daughters, she was here, and we took her to a very famous, very well-known Asian fusion restaurant that has locations all over the country and in different countries around the world. And we took her there, and she saw all the Asian decor and everything. And when the food came out, the first thing she said to us was, "This isn't Chinese food."
That's funny.
So talk a little bit. You mentioned that this has been a difficult year for people in the Asian community. Can you expand a little bit on that?
Absolutely. This has not been the easiest year for the Asian community, given the whole pandemic that's going on. And it's not easy for many people, but I think because of the media throwing out words like Chinese virus, Kung flu all the time, and the crime in the Asian community has risen a whole bunch. I think it's like 900% in New York City. It's not easy. And when I was writing my Moon Festival book in July, I really struggled with, is this the best time for me to do something like this? I have businesses in New York. I'm scared as heck too, just like everyone else. I'm really scared for my family. Should I be doing this? Should I be writing about Asian culture? Should I be promoting my Kickstarter? Should I be telling everyone about my mission, about my book to diversify children's libraries and include Asian children and families and culture in the books? And should I be presenting to corporations and school districts? I really, really struggle with that. And I knew that I have to. It's my duty to. It's my responsibility to, because I want to believe that there are people who's allies and friends, and they're more good in the world than what the media is portraying to scare everyone, right? And to divide us in a sense. So I did it. And every single week I went out there and I met new friends like you. Every single week I went out and I talked about my mission, my books, and why it's important for us to have a representation and have a voice. And so many people welcomed me. And I'm forever grateful. It really showed me that there are more rainbow moments than there are storms. And that even though it's a very scary time for us, so many people supported my Kickstarter, wanting to help. On the last day of my Kickstarter for my second one, last 5 days, the Atlanta shooting happened. And I made a post and I said, everyone's hurting. I'm going to donate 100% of my proceeds in the last 5 days because I've already met my goal at that moment. And the outpour of donations were, I'd never imagined I would have gotten that if I did not make the post standing up to say I'm hurting as an Asian person as well. And it wasn't easy for me to be very public about my feelings on social media because I'm having my brand, all the schools and all of the work that I've done, just standing firm on that. And out came a lot of good. I saw so many people supporting and sending messages. And that's very uplifting. I wish the media would cover more of how friendly Americans are, how amazing most people are. And there are certain things that you read online, we just kind of like, forget it, move on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that. I love what you said. There are more rainbows than storms. And And I also love that you're really highlighting the fact that there are so many people in our country that want to live up to the ideals of the country, that want us to be one American family with that has lots of different colors and lots of different flavors and lots of different languages and songs. And that's the beautiful world that I want my grandkids to grow up in. As soon as I meet them, hopefully, I'm not there yet, but I'm really hoping that they get to live in a world like that Dr. Martin Luther King dreamed about, where they are judged by the content of their character, where yes. it doesn't, where no one turns their head and gives a second look to a kid whose family originated from Thailand, hanging out and playing with a kid whose family originated from Nigeria, whose family originated from Ireland, just to see kids as kids and being able to be friends. And that's just this beautiful dream that I've had ever since I first heard Dr. King speak those words, and it's lived with me, and I'm really hoping that you and I can create that world for our kids and our grandkids. I
think I like to believe that because maybe I live in New York City where it's super diverse. We already have some of that, mm-hmm. and we will continue to have that and become even better. I make friends with people from all over the world, and our children are friends, and we're very supportive of each other. And I think that will continue to become even better as long as we continue to address issues that are unfair, and we kind of stand together and for every single color, for each different communities, and we are allies for any injustice that we see. And I think we will get there. And I think that our young granddaughters or children will continue to do our work that we haven't finished doing.
Yeah. so important. You know, I've the show that schools have wanted so much for me to present. Boy, I should be able to speak English better. I've been doing it for almost 100 years. When I go into schools presenting my educational magic shows, schools, most of the time, they want me to talk about the issue of bullying and how kids can build a culture where everybody feels welcome, everybody feels accepted, where kids understand that it's not okay to bully others. And I've been, for the last 15, 20 years, been letting kids know that the first step to doing that is to stand up. When they see somebody being hurt, when they see somebody being excluded, what they need to do is to stand up and address it. And that's what you just shared with us right now, is when we see people being discriminated against, being treated unfairly, being judged, prejudged based on the color of their skin or their language or where their parents originated from, we need to speak up and say something about it.
Right. It's not easy. The good things are usually not easy. And the more you do it, the easier it will become.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, absolutely. And the great thing is, the benefit is, you make friends. And your kids make friends. And that's really what life is about. Just getting back to Asian Adventures A to Z. So we're going to be, when we sit down and read this book with our kids, either during May, the Asian American Heritage Month, or throughout the year, we're going to be meeting different people from different Asian countries.
Yes, this book is super special because it took me a while to include as many Asian countries as I can find from A to Z. This book includes people from Cambodia, from Mongolia, from places that you don't even hear of, Laos. I think we mentioned Tibet in there. We just kind of try to include as many people, community, food, language, and the drawings are amazing. When I saw it, my illustrator is so talented. When I saw it, I was like, oh my goodness, do you know how much I've learned just by doing this book? And I was interviewing people from different places. I was interviewing people from Cambodia, and I said, can you tell me what are some amazing things in your country or your food or your culture that starts with the letter O? Because I need to fill in my letters. O, P, V are not easy letters to fill in about landmark, and they were so helpful. And I made a lot of friends, and it was a very fun project, and I'm very proud of it. And I hope that as many people will have the opportunity to read it, see it as possible.
Yeah. Well, you got to give a shout out to your illustrator.
Yes. My illustrator is a Vietnamese woman who lives in Vietnam now. Her name is Jay. Her last name is Lee, and she's incredibly talented. She's one of the most talented illustrators I've worked with so far. And she just takes her time in research because she's from Vietnam and she has no idea how certain countries like Korea or Japan eat with their sushi, or if they the way they dress. So she did a lot of research before she did the illustrations. So I'm really, really appreciative that I got very lucky and found someone amazing.
That's wonderful. I'm really lucky that I became friends with you. And I know people are going to want to know more about you and more about your fantastic books. Where can they go online to find out about your books and find out about you?
I have a Facebook page and an Instagram page. My Instagram is Instagram/by, B-Y, my first name Yobe, Y-O-B-E, my last name Q-I-U, and that's the same for my Facebook. And my website is www.yobeq.com. And I spend quite some time promoting my mission online. So I look forward to meeting a lot of new people.
Yeah. And I know we have a lot of educators listening, and I know that you have a lot of services helping educators, especially early childhood educators. Is there another place that people can go if they want to talk to you about those consulting services that you have?
Yes, I have a lot of educators who reach out and say that, Yobe, I worked in this school in my small town and I want to do things a little differently. I have a mission. This is my philosophy. How can I open my own school? Or how can I write my own first book? how can I do this? And the best way to reach out to me and talk about things, and I love talking to educators, is just emailing me at hello@yobeq.com, and then we'll set up a Zoom call and we'll chat about how I can help.
Awesome. We've had a great time celebrating Asian American Heritage Month with our friend Yobe Qui. Be sure to check out Asian Adventure A to Z. Hey, Yobe, thanks so much for being back with us on the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you so much. It's always an amazing time with you.
Please be sure to join us for the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. My Protecting the Planet with Your Kids co-host, Alexia Brown, will be back to introduce you to Gary Huck. He is our next great guest. You don't want to miss it. Gary is a really, really fun guest that gives us some great information that we can share with our kids about climate change. That's not going to scare your kids. It is actually going to motivate them to come together with you as a family to make the world a better place, to protect this beautiful world that we all share together. Hey, if you are the author of a fantastic children's book, you may be frustrated at how difficult it is to let the world know about that book. You probably didn't realize this when you set out to write a book. There are literally thousands of books that are published, not every single year, every single month. Yeah, no joke, no exaggeration. There are over 1,000 books published every single month. It's really difficult to have your book stand out from that crowd of books that are published every month, especially if you are a self-published or independently published author, maybe published by a small publishing house. We can help. Our Certified Great Read program can give you some fantastic tools that can let families know that your book is worthy of their consideration. Check it out today. Go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page. Scroll on down to Certified Great Read. You can find out all about the program right there. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, want to thank our guest, our friend, Yobe Qui. Be sure to check out Asian Adventures A to Z. Also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan, Alexia Brown. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to thank Augie the doggy for having my back here in the studio. But most of all, we all want to thank you so very, very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.